Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. My name is Star Wars. No, it is not Star Wars. My name is Starrapter. If you guys listened to last week, I didn't realize this, but I totally called myself Star Wars. Like, I am the Senate. No, I am the Star Wars. No, my name is Starrapter. You guys can call me Chris. I'm joined, as always, by Ben and by Milton. And this week, we have some news to talk about besides an episode of the Book of Boba Fett to review, which we can review for 2 hours on its own, like we did last week. We got some animation news. We got some casting news for a live action series. And we got a big Star Wars video game trailer to break down and to discuss, plus a release date, all for Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. So we're going to jump into, hey, how was our week this week? And I'm going to throw it over to Ben this time around.
Yeah, my week was pretty good. I didn't really have much going on in Star Wars today. Really this week as a whole. I would say, the only thing really for my week was I saw a tweet today that kind of went viral, and I requoted it because the tweet was saying, hey, if you woke up as the head of Lucasfilm, what would you do? And to me, I wouldn't greenlight any projects. I wouldn't cancel any projects. I wouldn't do anything like that whatsoever. It got me thinking. I was like, I'm not going to do any of that. The most important thing I would do if I was the head of Lucasfilm and woke up like that, I would set a mandate like, hey, we need to communicate with our fans more and let them know what's going on, what's coming up, and just basically lay down communication standards as a company. I mean, we've talked about it before on the podcast for so long, and I saw that viral tweet and I was like, that's what I would do. I would lay down communication standards and say, hey guys, we need to communicate with our fans. We don't have to listen to everything they say because we are still the company, but we need to communicate with them more and consider what fans are liking, aren't liking, are neutral about, whatever, and just really set the communication standards. And I think that's what Lucasfilm really, really needs. They're improving, they're getting better. Don't get me wrong on that, but they still have quite a ways to go. And I think that's a thing that I would do if I woke up as the head of Lucasfilm, when I saw that tweet. So that was kind of like my week in Star Wars, just more thinking big picture wise about it, and compared to all the other replies under the tweet were throw this project away, delete this from the franchise, add this, just those typical type things. Me, it was just like, hey, we just need to communicate with the fans, and that's the important thing. I think they need to continue to improve. But yeah, that was my week in Star Wars.
Yeah, so I was seeing that tweet going around everywhere today on Twitter, and you bring
Yep.
up a good point about the communication, as far as that's all concerned, because I think a lot of people can agree that Lucasfilm has been reacting a lot, and it's yeah, there's a difference between I guess feedback, but also just reacting to certain backlash, and
Yep.
the reactionary version of Lucasfilm. I think most people want to see change and them to kind of set their own footing first without having to acknowledge previous faults and things of that
Right.
nature.
Yep.
I mean, that's my stance on that entirely. But yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
jump on board with the tweet because I just kind of looked at him and forgot
Yeah.
about him. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting exercise and just critical thinking about, hey, what could happen here?
Yep.
No, I mean that's a good point. I mean, even just I know lately, and I'll before I get to what I've been doing with Star Wars this week, but even looking back at the prequel era of how they were making those films, and just the behind the scenes, I feel like we don't get enough of that. I think if I was in that position, I would want to show more behind the scenes of how we make our movies, what went into creative thoughts and ideas in the process. Yeah, we got the Force Awakens documentary, which was kind of more like a glossy celebration of getting everyone together and everyone being excited about the Star Wars movies coming back. Okay, that's expected. But even in looking at the Last Jedi documentary or even the Rise of Skywalker documentary, it still is very surfacey. So I think
Hmm.
what I would do is I would give more of a deep dive into how they make these films. Like honestly, I legit watch The Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith, even Attack of the Clones behind the scenes films at least once or twice a month because they're so good. They're so enriched with stuff, and you get to see behind the scenes of how those filmmakers and it's not even just filmmakers, it's the creators about how they create technologies and
Hmm.
how just simple stuff about the movie making process, how they do it, and that's very fascinating to people. So I think a lot of people look forward to the behind the scenes stuff than the movies sometimes. So I think I would try to be more transparent with showing how they make those films if I was in that position.
Yeah, no, that's really cool you mentioned that, Mel, because a lot of us do think about the visual effects and how the movie making process
Hmm.
is when it's Star Wars, because Star Wars is the pinnacle of movie making, essentially. You got all these different realms of things coming together,
Hmm.
sound and video and CGI and just like the
Absolutely.
actors. So it's like it makes a lot of sense. I think they struck some pretty good ground with the Mandalorian, especially that season one
Hmm.
gallery where it was like 8
Yeah.
episodes of like a deep dive into a specific theme. And I
Mhm.
can kind of get what you're saying with the movies have been lacking. I'm looking at you, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It was like you could tell that they had problems on set because like
Right.
they didn't really have behind the scenes. I remember like the behind the scenes on the Blu-ray was just a bunch of featurettes. I was like, oh, there was no
Right.
full length
Yeah.
anything. I think the Last Jedi uh the Last Jedi documentary is the best one because you literally see like Mark Hamill like going off like on this
Right.
Lucasfilm release thing. I'm like, oh, I'm surprised that he was actually able to get his honest feelings out, whether or not I agree or disagree
Right.
with him. It was pretty cool to see like Mark Hamill saying, I fundamentally disagree with everything about this character in this thing that
Well, I
Lucasfilm
think,
put
yeah,
out.
absolutely. But I think he was doing that in a lot of his interviews too. So like that was very consistent, and that made sense to
Oh,
me. And you're
okay.
right. I think out of all the documentaries of the sequel trilogy, the Last Jedi one was probably the best one. It was very honestly, it was the best one, but very frustrating to me because I think one of the writers, the assistant director or something, talked about like Luke Skywalker's role, which really upset me. I'm just like, ugh. Like if we only knew this before they released the film, but it is what it is. We got some insight to it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
no, my week in Star Wars, it has been actually it was today, listening to this podcast I listened to called Geek History Lesson,
huh.
and they were talking about their most anticipated like shows and movies for 2022, and of course Obi-Wan was on that list, and they were really excited about it, and they talked about the reasons why, but they really went into like they said like having Ewan McGregor back makes that show. You know, if you don't
Hmm.
have him, it doesn't work. Having Hayden back in some way, shape, or form makes that show. If you don't have Hayden in some way, shape, or form, it doesn't work. And we totally agree. And I know as a podcast, we will talk about that show once it's released.
Oh, yeah.
I know for me personally, that's the most anticipated show I'm wanting to see
Yep.
out of Star Wars because again, I love that character of Obi-Wan, but I love the actor of Ewan McGregor and how he portrayed Obi-Wan as a young Padawan into an older Jedi Master.
Yeah, because we don't get a lot. I mean, correct me. Yeah, this could be the first time where we get like a movie actor in Star Wars coming back to do a live action series. Like up until now, Din Djarin is a new character. Well, Mark Hamill, but he didn't really have much to do. It's like not focused on him. So this is the first time we're actually getting something like you would see on the Marvel side of things, where it's like, like Wanda shows up in a couple movies and she gets 8 episodes on WandaVision. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Lucasfilm does it when they get Ewan McGregor to come back and do an entire series. Because I'm
Mm.
loving DC's Peacemaker show right now. I think that's the hottest show out right now on TV on HBO Max, and it's really cool how they had like the previously on the Suicide Squad on the first episode
Right.
of Peacemaker. It's like, yeah, these are two things in the same universe. They're making references here and there, and it's cool to see like that movie actor on all these 45-minute episodes. I think that's a lot of fun. So yeah, definitely up there on my list. Can't deny that either.
Yep.
But I
Awesome.
will say, for me, first of all, I'm a little bit stuffed right now. I don't think it was the best idea to have like this huge like barbecue pig out right before getting on this podcast because they just opened up a place called Mission Barbecue here in Central Jersey, and well, New Jersey's not known to have barbecues, so obviously I
I'm
wanted
about
to
to
try this
say
place
Mission
out.
Barbecue has been around for a while. I'm shocked that you guys just got one because there's a whole bunch up here in
Oh,
Pennsylvania.
really? Okay. So yeah, I
Yes.
had like a little pulled pork, little like sausage with some jalapeno and cheddar
Hmm.
and some
Yo, it's
brisket and
fire.
dude, I am like
Dude,
I'm in
they
food
they
coma
they
mode.
cater. Listen, they cater weddings, dude. Like, and we've had a couple of my buddies who've been married the last couple of years have gotten Mission Barbecue to cater their weddings, and yeah, fire. their chicken on point, their pulled pork on point. I know this isn't a food podcast, but if you want some good barbecue, Mission Barbecue is where you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like I had to talk about this because I'm sometimes a guest on the IPC podcast called the Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast, and they're basically a pop culture podcast. But both of the guys are from the Deep South, and they always have a segment at the end of the show called #Barbecue Watch. So I felt like I had to do my part to talk about barbecue this week, even though it's not on their show. So there you go.
Right.
So I'm gonna do my best because I'm in food coma mode right now to try to stay peppy and try to stay awake here as I move along through the show. But what I will say is my Star Wars moment for this week involved me and my girlfriend playing a cool tabletop game that I got for a Christmas present, and that is, let me get the camera up here. It's called Star Wars Unlocked. Now, apparently this is like a brand. There's different themes of this. You know me, guys. I'm automatically a fan because they have a YT-2400 Outrider on the front of this box. And you know me, I'm like, Dash Rendar, yeah. So what's really cool about this game is it's an escape game. So, like you can go, that's a big hot thing that, to do now is like go to these escape rooms and find your way out of this place in a certain amount of time. It's basically that in board game form. It connects to your smartphone. You'll find like different coded numbers. And then from those numbers, you find clues that lead you to other numbers. And it's all based on a deck of a card. So you're looking through the deck, trying to find the number, flipping it over, solving puzzles like in this thing. But they have cool interactive elements with the smartphone where it's like you scan a certain card and then you'll be looking through like electro binoculars. Like we were playing a mission which had us do it in 60 minutes where we are like a soldier like stranded in Hoth. So it's really cool because it had like the storytelling element where like you're on your Tauntaun, you're looking to like find these probe droids, then you get attacked by Wampa, then you end up in a Wampa cave, and then you have to get out of the Wampa cave, and you have to like get this boulder to like move out of the way. Next thing you know, you find yourself at Echo Base, and they're preparing for their attack on the AT-ATs, and then you actually like get into one of the air speeders, and you fly around, and you're like taking out AT-ATs with like directions from like the HQ satellite and all this stuff, and then you finally get out of there and get past the Star Destroyer blockade. So I just really enjoyed it because it like actually you are in the shoes of this soldier and you're walking through. So they basically have the Hoth one, they have the smuggler one, and then they have something where you're like a stormtrooper patrol on Jeddah. So, and that one even comes with a map or something that somehow integrates with the actual game, like a physical map. So
Right.
It's a lot of fun. What I will say is there's no replay value at all in this game because once you get through it once, then you'll know all the answers. So it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, it's a cool gift, but I won't ever play it again because I've already done it once and that's enough. So we'll work through that over the next couple months, I guess, when we have some downtime. But it's a good experience, getting away from a video game, like I always say, and doing something tangible with cars or something like that's always a lot of fun. So we had a great time
Nice.
playing Star Wars Unlock this week.
Where'd you get it from again?
My brother-in-law's brother got it for me for a Christmas present. So yeah,
Nice,
I don't
that's
know. You
pretty
can
cool.
find that somehow, somewhere. But pretty cool.
Well, I know the most recent game like I bought was the Star Wars the entire saga Monopoly edition.
Oh.
Yep, same.
I'm actually been I found it at a I go to that one toy store I tell you guys about before, but I was looking for the original trilogy because we had it when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling my brother about this. I'm like, next time we all get together, we got to play Star Wars Monopoly. And I've been looking for the original trilogy version. Can't find it. But then I found the entire saga because it has like the metal pieces with like people, like characters' heads. So
Yep.
I think next time my family and I get together with my siblings, we might play that game. And I know also too, like I'm looking for, because I have Rogue Squadron on 64
Mm-hmm.
and I have Shadows of the Empire. I think
Nice.
I've been looking for another Star Wars game. It was like Racer or something.
Yeah, Racer.
Is that
Oh,
on
yeah,
64 you? Yeah,
Yep,
I'm trying to
that's on
find that
Racer.
one.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
on
trying to find
64,
it.
yeah.
It's hard. People don't have it. Even at the places I go to look, don't have it. So that's been my search the last couple of weeks, I guess, with Star Wars games. Because you guys know I'm always on a hunt for like those old vintage ones.
I'm always
Oh,
enjoying
yeah,
the hint of that, the fun of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Like I've actually been researching and stuff. I'm pretty close to buying an old 64 as well to
Dude, it's amazing.
get some of those games and just get playing them because like sure all these new games are fun and all, here's like the old man, saying back in my day, those games are fun. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I really want to get another 64, just to be able to play like those games, the different
Mm.
Star Wars games, whether it be Shadows or Rogue Squadron or Racer or any of the other classic 64 games like Mario 64. I love that. All those old games are so much fun. GoldenEye, like
Oh
I
yeah,
definitely
GoldenEye.
want to.
Right, absolutely.
Yep, I
Chris,
definitely want to.
I got a great idea for one of these weeks. If we don't have any Star Wars news or any show news, we should do an episode of like Star Wars games.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
look, I'm telling
Star
you,
Wars
I'm
games
sure.
ranked or something.
Yeah, ranked
Or
or our favorite ones, or we our least
talking
favorite.
about
Like,
'em.
Yeah.
yeah, because we're all gamers here in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah,
So-
we could do like a top 5, and we'll go through like our lowest 5 first, and make
Right.
our way to the top. Yeah, that would be really
Absolutely.
fun. I know we're gonna have a little bit of a gap here in between Book of Boba Fett and what we'll talk maybe Bad Batch. It looks like might be coming up next. So
Right.
yeah, I could definitely see us in addition to doing some commentaries in between there. Yeah, we could definitely carve out a space to talk about games, because you guys know I'm all about the games. So that would be a lot of
Facts.
fun.
Absolutely.
A lot of fun. All
I agree.
right, so we are going to get into this episode proper. Thanks to Chris Weber for joining us in the chat. He's saying Ocarina of Time is unbeatable. I've gotten really far in that game, by the way, so I gotta
Ocarina
go
of Time.
back to
Oh,
it.
listen, my brother and I already know. Like, we already talked about that the other day. We're gonna restart that game again without the guide, because we used to have the game guide for it. And I told him, I said, if we can't do it, we're gonna have to probably download a guide off the internet, because that game is like hard. If you
Yeah.
don't know what you're doing. So
Oh yeah, so some of those old games are really hard. Like I always said, the original, the Star Wars 64 game, like the A New Hope, or not the New Hope, the Super Nintendo game.
yes,
That one was so hard back in the day, because like
Yeah.
if you got killed, it like wouldn't save half the time, so it would like boot you to the beginning of the game and
Yeah.
stuff. So you'd have to play through it straight away.
Oh
Yeah, you
my
gotta get a code or something.
gosh. Yeah, you'd have to straight up
Yeah.
binge the game all day, because you could never power it off, or you'd have to leave the system on and hope that the power never went out.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, so
Uh.
getting into the show proper, if you guys are listening to us on any podcast streaming service, we also go live every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Come ahead and join us in the chat. We always have a good time with you guys being interactive. And if you're watching this and you want to listen to us on the road, you can always download us there on Spotify, on Google, on any kind of streaming service there. Make sure you go ahead and rate us on either platform. So getting into the Book of Boba Fett Season 1, Episode 4, The Gathering Storm. As always, we're going to talk about the first reactions to this episode, spoiler free, to give everybody a chance to listen to our thoughts and come back later if they haven't watched the episode. So this episode is basically Boba Fett and his interactions with meeting Fennec Shand. We get some flashbacks that kind of bridge the gap in between his flashbacks and the Mandalorian, in which we see them interacting. And we do get a little bit of some stuff for present day, where we have that mafia scene of the Aqualish, of the Trandoshans, of the Klaatuians, kind of gathering and talking about their forces and what they're going to do with the Pikes. So I'll throw it over to Milton. What's your first reactions, spoiler free, to this episode, man?
Yeah. I actually like this episode. I watched it Wednesday night. I didn't get to watch it in the morning, but I watched it Wednesday night. And it's funny because my brother called me and was saying how he had some feelings about some of the weird writing in it, and we'll get into that with our spoilers. And again, I think I agree with him on certain things, but when it comes to the overall episode, this is a good episode. It's definitely not bad. I thought it was well written for a couple parts in it, and we'll get into it later. I like that it was a 46-minute episode. Again, the common theme here is that the longer the episodes, the more fleshed out and more information we get, which makes it a better episode. Not saying it's perfect, but it's a better episode, and they're not wasting space for the most part when it's shorter. I like the action in this episode was really, really good. I love the music. I love the character development, and this pushed the story narrative. Even in the present story, that was actually pushed, and I'm thinking about time. That's what we're needing. So I really enjoyed it. I had some issues with it here or there, but it was the second best episode thus far. And it's only been 4, so it's kind of sad to say, but it's the second best episode thus far.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Bill, and I think it is the second best episode. It's definitely nothing perfect. It's still episode 2 is still amazing in my eyes. That's my gold
Absolutely.
standard for the series so far. But I think what's great about this episode is it does show that power of the crossover. We're finally getting that crossover power. There's a little hint at the end of the episode, which we'll go into our speculation at the end of this episode when we get to our spoiler discussion. But even the stuff before that, like seeing how closely they integrate, seeing things like the Slave One in action again, seeing things like Boba Fett in the past actually explaining his motives for why he's abandoning the role of bounty hunter and actually trying to change things up and maybe having to be a leader to change things up. Sure, there's little moments in there, like the little moment with the droid, which is a cute moment, but it's just like I don't know. I feel like that's uncharacteristic of Boba Fett
Hmm.
having such trouble dealing with a stupid little droid. And it just felt like there was a little bit of waste of time. I feel like there was a little bit of waste of time in this episode. There are certainly like really cool moments, like oh yeah, dealing with the bantha and stuff like that. That's like that Star Warsy humor that I keep talking about, like we've had over the past couple of weeks for sure. But cool things like Black Chrysanthemum, finding out about the Wookiees and the Trandoshans and stuff like that. So a lot of cool deep cut Star Wars stuff as we could expect from anything that's connected to the Mandalorian series when we're dealing with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni in there. But
Hmm.
overall, solid episode. I'll throw it over to Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with most of the points you guys made. I think it's the second best episode overall in this series. And the thing about it is, I think it's a close second, and then the other two episodes below it are a distant 3 and 4. So
I agree.
like this episode had issues for sure, but overall I loved it. I thought it was really good for what it was, and it was one of these like I messaged you guys at 3 o'clock in the morning because as everyone knows here, I watch this at 3 in the morning each week when it comes out. It felt like we were back on track. Like, okay, we had that last week's episode, and it was like, whoa, where are we headed? And then this week, it's like, okay, you're back on track now. And I think the biggest thing this show's been missing is some type of a big punch. And they gave us that big punch at the end of the episode with the music that was playing and it was hinting at. Like, I think that type of a big punch is really what the show was needing because I literally just could not stop thinking of like instantly that music was stuck in my head. I was thinking about, I was like, okay, can't wait for next week already, blah, 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 blah. Like, I was super excited just because it feels like we're getting somewhere. Like now that we know most likely a certain character is coming next week, it'll just by the gist of that character being in the presence of the show, it'll basically probably force the show to go forward to be more action packed, to be more, just everything overall that we've been looking for.
Right.
Yeah, so as we do always, we kind of break through chronologically in the time format of the show, going through from the beginning to the end, just glossing over some things we might want to talk about and continuing forward. So this is the moment we're going to talk about spoilers. If you guys haven't watched, go ahead, pause this podcast or pause the video and come back later. So we open up this episode, started right into a flashback, right? We're getting right into that whole thing with him seeing Jabba's palace, him seeing the lights in the sky. What was your reaction to Milton? I'll throw this one to you. Just seeing the flares in the sky and be like, oh, I know where this is going.
At first I was a little hesitant just because I didn't know where they were taking this, but obviously we get to see that it was a reason why they did that, and obviously the purpose was for him to now start seeking out his revenge to get his ship and to get his armor. To see how tactical he was trying to be, um, it definitely kind of surprised me a little bit just because, yeah, I know he's a bounty hunter and he's got tactical skills, but I'm surprised he didn't just go full born and just like attack right away. But obviously, as you see the story play out, it made sense why they wrote it that way. Um, and I was actually kind of surprised that he didn't at least attempt to try to get the armor, or not the armor, the ship without Fennec at first. Obviously, he didn't know who that person was, but I'm surprised he didn't try himself because we do know Boba is a prideful guy, but he's also smart too, so that also makes sense as a story. I love that scene. Again, I'm glad that it played out the way it did as the episode moved forward.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, he mentions this later on in the episode, like, he's never really fought people like that unless you had to without his armor. You know what I mean? Like he only
Right.
fought the Tusken Raiders
Which
'cause he
makes
made
sense,
to.
which is great writing.
Unless he has
Yeah.
backup. But what I really like is him getting Fennec Shand, and where this connects with me to episode 3 to make episode 3 better is him dealing with these people, the mod gang or whatever you want to call them.
Mhm.
That was awesome because I was like, oh, it makes sense why he like kind of trusts these people to join his gang because they're kind of the same people that saved Fennec Shand, who is his right hand woman. So I
Right.
really like the vibe of the mod gang. We even seen like one of those scooter things out there. So that part was really cool because we haven't seen anything quite like that. We've seen stuff like that in the Star Wars comics in the last year or two, where it's like these people like cybernetics getting implanted, like bioluminescence valence and stuff like that. But to see it like almost like a tattoo parlor, they called it the mod parlor. I thought that was a cool name. It's like instead of getting tattoos in Star Wars, people are getting modifications through their anatomy. So I really like that vibe, and the music was really cool. It was like the Star Warsy like industrial music, which I thought was like,
Yeah, kind of
what
like
is this like?
maybe like a little bit of Daft Punk or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
What'd you
yeah.
think about
So
that part, Ben?
Um, I thought I thought the overall like start to it, the episode was pretty good. It was like you said, Milton, it made sense as the story went on throughout the episode as to why Boba just didn't try to go in and take some people out. So I was fine with that. I thought it was played out well. And then with like the mod gang, it did help them a little bit, I would say. I can definitely say though, I definitely did not like their techno music at all. Like I just thought it was too. It just felt like what's that video game that came out, like cyberpunky? Like I don't know. It just felt like too like techno for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But it did add to their characters a little more, like you said, Chris. Like why Bo would trust them and that sort of thing. So like that made more sense, and it added to the prior episode, which the prior episode definitely needed some additions to it. So that's good. They added to it. And then also just to throw out there, like we didn't like specifically mention, but like the flash at the beginning of the episode was them connecting to season 1 of Mando when Fennec gets shot. So like that's like their connection
right.
to that and like how it's connecting in the flashback. So like as us as a viewing audience, we're knowing like, oh, these flashbacks like advanced 5 years basically. Like we're basically almost caught back up to present day. So I thought that was done really well, and it's nice seeing those type of connections. Like you and me, Milton, we always talk about like the Arrowverse. It's always cool seeing those like connections. Like, oh, what's happening over there in that corner of the city or something. You know what I mean? Like those little connections like that and the crossover events, like those type of things. No matter what it is, whether it be Star Wars or Arrowverse or whatever, like those type of crossover connections are always really fun, and it's a fun viewing experience for the fans, I think, just because like us as fans, like we collectively like all experienced Fennec getting shot together basically. So now like seeing like the opposite of that or like a different angle of that is pretty cool, like basically like connecting up with that, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. And like, because even looking at that whole scene that from the perspective of Boba Fett, because at the end of was that season 1, whenever she gets shot, we were all speculating.
Episode 5. Yep.
Yeah, we were all speculating. Well, who saved her? Who showed up? And there was talks that maybe that is a Boba Fett or whomever. And seeing that perspective now, even though we knew that the whole time, like it's nice to see that that all was wrapped up again, and it was seamless. It wasn't unnecessary. So I really enjoyed how they put that in there.
And I love the fact of it coming around full circle for the character of Boba Fett, right? This guy was in the same place as Fennec Shand. He was basically, he says, I was left for dead on the sands of Tatooine. He goes to that whole spiel, so he's actually saving her. He's been in her shoes before, right. And he's given her a choice to go help him. And Ben, you mentioned like the passage of time. I really like how it's been a passage of 5 years. It shows you how long he's been with the Tusken Raiders. He's been with the Tusken Raiders for like 5 years. And I like that because we see him come into play in, episode 6 of season 2. And he's just so masterful with the gaffy stick because he's literally been training with that thing for years. So
Right.
it's not like he just picked it up in 3 weeks. He's a master. I like how he honed his skills over years of time, and plus that shows how much beat up his skin is, where he needs literally like days and days or weeks or however been in the back to tank before he's finally full or healed.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think this is one of the issues that my brother and I were talking about, and we'll get into this in a minute, but like the writing of like the talking of the time in Star Wars, like the passages of time. But what I want to get into before that is like you brought up a word choice. I love the dialogue that they had about how he's like, I'm tired of like going into situations where I can be killed or you can be killed. He's like, why can't he's like, we're smarter than all these people.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we just take over? I love that scene between
Yep.
them, and she's like the Tuskens made you soft. He's like, no,
Yeah.
being with the Tuskens made me smarter, and it realized like you need people pretty much. You
yeah,
need a
what
family.
you say you need a family. I love that line. I
Yeah.
thought like when he said that line, I was like, oh man, that's good stuff right there.
So now it makes so much sense of why he killed your boy Bib Fortuna
Okay.
and at the end of Mandalorian. It's like, okay, he's been thinking about this not just like for a second. This is for a while. For like,
Years.
it seems like he was thinking about this probably maybe in the beginning of Return of the Jedi. Maybe this has always been an idea of him because he's like, well, I've been wanting to do this. Like, I'm tired of working for all these guys who don't know what the hell they're talking about and trying to get me killed. So that just adds more onto that character, and even adds more onto Return of the Jedi, maybe.
And that's what I've been looking for 4 episodes now. I'm like, all right, like we get it. He wants to be leader, but why? Why is this propelling him forward? What's that catalyst that's making him do this? And it's this entire thing with the Tuskens. So I'm happy to finally get that resolved. What'd you guys think about that whole sequence with the Jabba's palace and how they were sneaking in? They had it was so funny because we talked last week about like all the food. It was like, who's making all this food? And it's like Lucasfilm heard us out on the internet. They're like, oh, they want to know how they're making the food. Let's show them exactly how it's done with droids.
Right. So I love that scene. I love 95% of that scene. Obviously, with them doing their scouting, sneaking into the castle, clearly seeing that Bib Fortuna had a fortress. He had people there to work for him, and how you get to see that these guys are very skilled bounty hunters and just overall hunters in general. Obviously, the sucky part about this scene was the whole kitchen scene. That was unnecessary. There was no need to have a Grievous wannabe cook with multiple knives trying to kill you, and then like. The little, what's that little bug droid that look like a mouse? I've seen him we see him in the animations.
Yeah.
But that robot was weak. And the example my brother brought up was like, Boba makes a comment about, people, it's nice to, people know that if I'm dead, I'm more of a threat or whatever. Now that was after the kitchen scene. And my brother says, well, he told the robot, he's like, do you know who I am? I'm Boba Fett. And he turns himself off. And it's like, bro, like you just told this robot that, you're Boba Fett, but then you're saying, well, it's okay that I'm dead. People don't know I'm coming. He's like, what if that robot wakes up? It's like, oh, by the way, Boba Fett choked me out. It's just weird writing. That was weird. I'm like, okay, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
That's, what that is, Milton? That's them as creators saying, hey, we're giving you like I'm John Wick, I'm James Bond, I'm, type moment. And it's like you said, it's totally unnecessary. Cut that out. And that whole sequence goes perfectly. Like I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Like I said, the scouting was really cool. Just seeing their skills in action. I like Fennec using her stuff to like scout out. Like I thought, anytime you see inside like scopes or visors or stuff in Star Wars, that's always a really cool look. So I thought that was a good touch. And just I just thought it was a really good sequence overall, except for that sequence right there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I love the Slave One action, right? Like it's a classic Star Wars kind of trope where it's like, all right, they're trying to get somewhere and something goes wrong bad. Oh, they can't get the door open, and the Slave One is just slamming just into the wall, just taking the wall apart. As Boba's trying to figure stuff out, you got Fennec that's on the tailgate, just taking guys out one at a time, being a badass. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah. No, that whole scene was cool. I mean, the ship. It was cool to see the Slave One and how it still was operating. I love how he makes a joke. He's like, oh, I'm a little rusty or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That makes sense. But no, I love that scene. It was really awesome.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I thought it was really cool, and I like that we're seeing how Fennec's skills. We mentioned it in the early episodes of this show. It's cool seeing more of Fennec in action, more of her skills, because like we saw them a little bit in the prior seasons of Mando, but not really to the extent we're seeing now. So I'm really liking her character arc, and honestly, now that we'll get into it later in the episode, but I think the flashbacks also are even more about Fennec as well, like how she ends up, with Boba. Like it's nice seeing how her character is actually connecting and leading up, and it's adding up. It's filling in those gaps. So I think the flashbacks are even partially, they're a good chunk of them are about her journey as well.
Yeah, because she's listening to Boba Fett. She says as they're flying in the cockpit, "I'll go for the ride." He's asking,
Yeah.
"Oh, where do you want me to drop you off?" I'll go for the ride. And this
Yep.
next sequence was unexpected, but pretty cool nonetheless. As he's trying to find his. No, they go to kill the raiders first. That's right. They go to
Yeah,
kill
that
the
was
swoop
before they
bike
killed the
riders.
Raiders, I think.
Yeah,
It was before they killed the Raiders that she's like, I'll just go for the ride.
Yep.
Right? Because
and
wasn't that after the
Yeah.
Sarlacc pit?
Yeah.
well, I
That, that
think the
was
Sarlacc
that
pit
was
is after the bikers,
Oh,
right?
that's after. It's after the bikers, yeah.
But that part is really fantastic. That's just like a fan moment right there with Slave One raining death upon those poor unsuspecting
Oh, that was
swoop
fire.
bike riders. Like this, oh my gosh! Like you just, I love how it just focuses on a tiny little dot, and it just gets closer, just rips them apart, just rips them apart.
Yeah.
They don't even know what's happening. Perfect
Loved
vengeance
it.
right
Yeah,
there.
just wrecking people, dude. And that's what I'll be. Look, in the show like this about this type of character, we want to see that character wreck shop at least once or twice. And he's just blowing up like it's nothing. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I would do the same thing, wrecking
Yeah.
people.
Oh,
It's kind of, yeah.
100%. And I thought it was nice they added that too. I laughed because one of my buddies comes over to watch it every week with me, and I said, "Whew, good. We got these guys taken care of. Now we don't have to spend an entire 1 or 2 episodes on flashbacks. We can keep it moving." So like that was a big bonus as well.
Keep it simple, dude. Keep it simple. And just
It's so funny because like all the little TV spots that were running up to the release of this first episode of the series had that in the promotion. It was like this big moment, like, oh, we're gonna get this big war with these like swoop bike riders against somebody else on the other side, and it's like we just deal with them in like 2 seconds with the Slave One just wiping them out. It's like, oh, so much for that gang of guys. But then
Yeah,
we
no,
go
I
to this,
loved it.
yeah, we go to this unexpected scene with the Sarlacc pit, and I know this one's getting a lot of flack. I know it is online. People are like, "Why is he looking inside the Sarlacc? He was outside of the Sarlacc with the armor to begin with. What's he doing?" But I mean, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, okay, here's my explanation of the whole matter, right? Like, Boba Fett was in a Sarlacc pit. They have all that acid. It screws with your mind because it's supposed to digest you for 1,000 years, so it's like got crazy chemicals in there to do that. He's not supposed to get out. No one's supposed to get out of that thing alive. He's lucky enough that he had the Mandalorian armor to keep him safe and the flamethrower to get them the hell out of there. And you see him getting out of there in the first episode, and he's like halfway unconscious as he's climbing out of that thing. So by the time he's passed out, those Jawas have his armor. How I don't think he's in the right mind to know what happened to the armor at that point. It could have slid down back into the pit or something.
So that was one of my. So this wasn't really one of my critiques. Something my brother and I talked about because he said the same thing. He's like, that don't make any sense. Why would they write that with the whole like time? And this is where I think they struggle with time. I wish they would say more clearly and honestly treat us like we're 3. Say certain time has passed, and they hint at it when they drop hints of like, oh, they'll say years or time has passed or whatever. But you got to be more specific because you have fans who are very much in tune of details. So, like you said, Chris, I agree with your explanation. That's how I explained it. I think he was just disheveled. He's been in that Sarlacc pit for a while. His head's not right. He just maybe just not lost, has amnesia, but maybe he just blanked it out. I don't know. That's how I explained it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that scene it was solid. It was fine for what it was. It was kind of cool seeing them, them interacting up close like that with the Sarlacc. I thought that was kind of cool just for that area. I thought that was really neat. But yeah, you hit a good point on it, Milton. Like, keep it really simple. Like treat us like we're kids or whatever, or younger. Like, be a little more explain it a little more. Like, like for example, what's the famous Einstein quote? It's like, explain it as simply as you can without being too simple. Explain it
Right.
simple enough, get the point across, and keep it moving. And like sometimes Star Wars, they miss that point. And this was one of those moments. I mean, I thought it, like I said, I thought it was a fine scene. It was like overall visually, it was well made.
It was great.
It just
Yeah.
where it was set, it just was like, okay, like I guess maybe Boba, didn't think about going back there yet because he wasn't ready to enact his revenge or something. Maybe that could be a reason why. But you shouldn't have to make up reasons as to why a certain event is happening in a show. So yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it was solid. Yeah, I just like seeing more of the Sarlacc, I guess, up close. And honestly, I thought one of like the tentacles or something was going to reach out, or something from the sand, like when they were really up close to it. But
Yeah, this set definitely reminded me of something from like a Jurassic Park movie or something.
yeah,
Especially because in Jurassic Park: The Lost World, there's that scene when the RV is like falling off the cliff.
Yep.
And I got like such vibes of that because like they're like leaning into the pit itself and she actually falls onto the glass and it's like its mouth is right there. That was like creepy as heck. And then the fact that they use a sonic charge to kill the freaking thing was just so poetic. I love that.
Dude, I was like, holy shit! I was like, they actually bringing that back. I loved it. That part was dope because and the sound of it, I was like, yeah, that's Attack of the Clones.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
literally,
100%.
Yep, Jango Fett.
Yeah, oh yeah, like I love that. That was anytime you have the sonic charges, it's awesome. Like that's always some of the best things in Star Wars for sound wise. And Chris, you mentioning Jurassic Park, didn't Bryce Dallas Howard direct this?
No,
it was,
didn't she?
somebody else.
Or is she directing an
something.
upcoming episode? I think she might be
That's
directing
correct.
upcoming. Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. So that was that. And then basically that's the end of the flashbacks for the most part. Right? Is he gets to the end there and they're just like, okay, we got to get you in Bacta or something like that.
Right. Yep.
And then it kind of shows us like the end of Mando season 2 where he's shooting a guy and then he gets out of the Bacta pod. And I didn't expect this to happen. I don't know if this is a misdirect. I still kind of think it is. Is like, oh, you're fully healed now. It's like, wait, really? It was that easy? Like all this was just he's fully healed
he
now.
did mention he did say like this, but the scars on the inside aren't. He did say that. Yeah.
Okay. And then I had another great insight into this episode on Facebook. There's a guy his name is funny enough, his name is actually Din on Facebook. That's his actual name. And he's a huge Star Wars fan. He's part of a band called F105 and he's out of Toronto. And he had a great thing where in the Clone Wars, he made a great connection to the Clone Wars. There's an episode where Yoda is in a Bacta and Yoda is like, I forget the episode now, but it had something to do with Yoda having dreams while he was in the Bacta. Do you guys remember that
I
one?
think that was like the lost episodes. Whenever like
yeah.
Is that when he gets hurt or something and he's like having the dreams about like the three faces or the wills?
That's what it is.
Is that what it was?
So so basically that connection is there's already a connection there with like being in Bacta and having dreams like that. So I always was, making a theory of, oh, there's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with him. Why does he keep having the dreams? But then you could relate it to like Yoda's journey and he had the dreams. Maybe Luke Skywalker had the dreams when he was in a tank on Echo Base there. But I still thought that was like, I feel like they were gonna go somewhere really cool with the storyline, with the whole clone background. And I don't know. I guess that could still happen, maybe. But this signifies to me that there's gonna be no more flashbacks, at least, because there really isn't much to do. I mean, at this point, he basically got the ship. Now all he's waiting for is to see that speeder bike with the Mando armor fly by on Tatooine, and that's where we know he catches up. So they don't have to show us every single second of him up until that moment, obviously.
Yeah, I just thought the whole sequence, it basically symbolized, that was the end of the flashbacks. Like, soon as they said, like, I literally said that out loud. As soon as they said, you're all healed or I'm all healed or whatever, whoever says it, like, I looked at my friend, I was like, oh, well, that's the end of the flashbacks. And, I feel like that was their plot device just to basically signal to the fans, like, hey, this is literally the end of the flashbacks. So, which is interesting because that means they were self-aware coming into this that the flashbacks were taking up a good majority of the first half of the season. So that's an interesting thing to think about, just because of the way the flashbacks were received as a whole. So I feel like that was kind of maybe put in there as a buffer for the fans, like, hey guys, don't worry, like, flashbacks are stopping or slowing that way down here, because I think the following 3 episodes are going to be more action packed in general as a whole. And and then as you pointed out, Milton, there could still be some other stuff, whether it be more dream related, like mentally or potentially physically, because Boba literally does say there's still scars on the inside. So like that could mean either mentally or physically. So, and we just will have to find that out as the show goes on.
Yeah, I just feel like there's something suspect every time about how it turns green. The screen turns green. I'm like, I feel like that's like a genetic DNA coding thing that's still messed up with him. So that's why I keep holding on to that. But one thing I did hear off of Twitter is, okay, if they're spending literally like more than half of this series with flashbacks, is that basically because they are so confident they are getting a season 2 that they can spend this much time on his backstory and only give us like 3 actual episodes of like fully present day storyline? You know what I mean? That's what I kind of feel like. I agree with that statement.
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know yet. I have to still see how this show is progressing before I can like project the season 2. I just don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good solid point that someone brought up, and it does make it feel like there is most likely a season 2. I mean, we all pretty much think that at minimum, I think it'll have 2. If Bad Batch has 2 seasons, this show will have 2 seasons. Like,
I mean,
like
you're most likely right. You're most likely right. It's just you never know, man. Like
my thing is, like, I mean, sure, us 3, we aren't the most, we're not accomplished Hollywood people here, but I mean, I personally wouldn't have greenlit so many flashback sequences for this, in my opinion. But it just comes down to how the show is going to play out, like how everything's going to play out. Like if these final few episodes hit and get people going crazy, which I think it's trending in that direction, and we'll get into that. But I think it'll easily get a second season. I think there's a chance we get a post-credit scene again, and I think that could potentially start being the standard, because the end of Mando season 1, we didn't get that just because it was totally new waters for Disney Plus, like doing this sort of a thing. And then now with all these Marvel shows, we're getting post-credit scenes. Star Wars, we got our first post-credit scene with Mando. I think we're going to get one as well with this series, and I think it's going to just be the standard moving forward, honestly, to preview for the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with this is still new territory, right? I mean, this is a spin-off of The Mandalorian. We know they have a very specific story crafted for The Mandalorian. So I think if this has 1 season, then it could almost be like, okay, Ahsoka's probably only going to have 1 season. If they have this other show that's in the works that I've been hearing about, maybe people are saying Bo-Katan might get a show. I don't know how credible that source is. I don't want to spend any time talking about it because I don't know where it's coming from. But maybe that's the Rangers replacement that we were going to maybe have or something. Maybe that only is 1 season. So there's a lot of variables. But getting back to the story here, Black Chrysanthemum versus a Trandoshan. I mean, you got that classic feud between a Wookiee and a Trandoshan, right? It stems all the way back to like the beginning of their time, basically. It's like the Trandoshans are hunters. They work for this hunter god, or they pray this hunter god, and they go out to Kashyyyk and they just like kill Wookiees for sport. And the Wookiees are always the ones that seem like they're getting the hard times between the Empire enslaving them and between the Trandoshans hunting them down in the Clone Wars. So these guys can't catch a break. And it just shows you how unhinged Black Chrysanthemum is. If he doesn't have like a job, he just becomes a problem for pretty much everybody involved. So I thought it was really great to see us having so much time spent with the character, right? We see him in episode 2, we see him in episode 3, and now we have him officially teamed up with Boba Fett, which I seen coming. I seen that coming, especially since they worked together with the comics. But it's still really cool to see these two good old bounty hunters working together now.
Yeah, it was a great scene. I legit love the entire scene. I think I think actually what I said, and I'm not gonna say it all the way because you're about to censor this, but pretty much I said when he ripped his arm off, I was like, oh, Fuck. Like I screamed that. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Cause I didn't see that, like I didn't see that coming, even though I should have, because like we all heard from Han saying that Wookiees can rip people's arms out of their sockets, but they didn't foreshadow it, which was
Yeah.
nice. Cause I'm thinking he's just gonna like wreck the whole bar, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden and she's talking to him, which that Twi'lek is so hot, dude. Like, and look, Jennifer Beals, who plays that Twi'lek, she's 58 years old in real life.
What?
Fire, dude.
What?
Fire. Oh yeah, she's been back like an actress back in the 80s. Like she's like almost 60.
Oh my
Looks
God.
amazing. And dude, when she was talking to him, she's playing that like bartender, like a lady of the night, trying to like keep her business right. And all of a sudden, he's like, "The hell with this." Rip his arm off. Oh, here's clean up the mess. By the way, kind of like the echo of Han Solo whenever he shoots Greedo in a weird way. He's like, "Oh, sorry about the mess," and flips the coins. I think that was kind of cool.
The thing that was going through my head was, oh, he'll be fine. He's a Trandoshan. He's just gonna grow his arm back because Trandoshans have like a healing capability, which is really funny because in the War of the Bounty Hunter comics, Byron Valance, it was Boba Fett literally blows up Bosk to the point where he loses his legs. And now, like, time has passed in the Bounty Hunter comics, Bosk is in, and at one point you see him in, like, a back-to-bath, like, growing his stubby little legs, and now his legs are back. It's only, like, a couple weeks or a couple months after that, and his legs are fully back, so I'm thinking that transition's like, yeah, just get that guy some back there or something. He'll be fine.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
but no, the overall scene was good, though. I liked it.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you guys on this scene. Like, I thought it was a lot of fun. I agree with you, Milton. I was when she was talking to Black Chrysanthemum there, I was like, man, I think he's about to like wreck this entire place. Like, because it really felt like it was heading that direction because, the whole scene, like the way she was like kind of whispering to him, was real quiet. I thought he was going to just snap, and just start taking everybody out is what I thought we were heading in. And then he goes and rips that Trandoshan's arms off. And, I didn't do the screaming. My buddy who was sitting like across the living room, he was like, whoa, he's like, I can't believe he just did that. And, this is like at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, really.
And it woke my dad up, and my dad pounded on the wall, and he's like, quiet down out there, I'm sleeping. But no, that was a really good scene. Like, it's cool just seeing him in action. It's cool. We all knew. I felt like that was going to be the scene to bridge the gap to connect with Boba. Like, I felt like that was pretty much the job interview scene,
Yeah.
I just felt like Boba was gonna like be in the back of the bar standing there, like I just felt like it was coming, and that's pretty much what happened. So it's cool seeing Black Chrysanthemum's like basically introduction into the gang or into the family, I guess, and it's gonna be cool seeing whoever else comes into the family.
Yeah, I liked how he was like had a backup plan. He was like, "Oh, we'll make her quietly talk him down, and we'll get him to get a job." And he's like, that didn't work. Let me just try it the forceful way. You want a job? Rawr. Okay, it's that simple.
And it worked.
So getting into the big scene that everybody kept talking about in the forefront of these trailers, we get the whole big family gathering, which I thought was really funny how they placed the table right on top of the Rancor pen. Now it makes perfect sense why that table was there out of all the other places that they could have put it in the large Jabba's palace. They had it right there. What was your reaction to this scene, man? Ben, you can go first.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It was cool. I went back and actually watched the trailer to see if like we could see the Rancor anywhere in it, just the way it was shot, but you couldn't, which is cool because honestly, I didn't expect to get anything out of that scene. I really didn't, other than just, dialogue filler, bad guys talking, join me or you'll be taken out type deal. I figured it'd be something like that. But then the fact that the Rancor gets involved, like that's pretty dang sweet. Like I was so excited about it. And it's cool knowing also, so like that thing's already connected to Boba, like already pretty much. Like, so that means we're going to be seeing that thing in action, like probably really soon. If probably not next week. I feel like they're saving that either for like episode 6 or 7. I think we'll eventually get some like epic scene with him riding it, battling and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, I think that's what this is all foreshadowing to. But it's just great seeing the Rancor with Boba basically threatening all those crime lords. And it just was so like Godfather-esque, like meeting with the other families. Like that's all I was thinking about. I was like, this is the Godfather in space, basically, with a big alien pet. And I thought it was done really well. I like how Fennec gave like kind of Boba's introduction. I thought that was pretty cool. That's such like a good trope, whether it be in like gangster type movies or anything like medieval times, like, you know, someone introducing the king or the main leader or the main Don, like those type of things. Like I thought that was a really cool thing. And I'm really like all of these scenes, honestly, like don't get me wrong, Boba's been great, but this show's making me like Fennec more and more and more by the episode. Like I think they are nailing her character perfectly.
Yeah, Melton.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just a spin off of what, you know, Ben just said about Fennec. I will say she's been the most consistent character throughout this whole series, which is great. So that's just a testament how they're writing that character. And obviously Ming-Na Wen, is that how you say her full name?
Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah, Ming-Na Wen, excuse me. Like she's a really good actress and she's a hottie too. So like that's what's up. I love facts, dude. I'm telling you, 55 is the new 30. Just saying.
Yeah.
But anyways, but no, I love this scene because it was very much Godfather-esque. But my favorite part about it, obviously, with the I think was it a Trans-Joshan? Who said what? Someone said about, you know, what's stopping us from killing you right now.
Oh, that's a Klaatuine guy. Yeah.
Okay, he says that, and all of a sudden, the Rancor claws pop up. And you notice everyone jumps except for Boba. He just sits there. Like he doesn't even react. And I love that because I think he was playing them. I think he was trying to see where the loyalty would be, but wanted to scare them straight because he knew that he'd have to show some force. He had to show that he's somewhat powerful.
Finally.
That was that scene right there. They're like, oh shit, like he's got a Rancor. We thought it was dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it was nice to see like that he has that ability now. He's starting to gain that power. I still think this scene he was just playing them. I think he just wanted to see how they would react because he knows, like he said, he's like they're going to work for themselves. They're going to be invested in their own best interest. But he's like, we'll figure it out pretty much. So I liked it.
Yeah, I love the part that we finally get. Why speak of conflict when cooperation can make us all rich? You know, we finally get that epic line that was basically like the whole slogan for the show going up to its release of episode 1. But it was just neat, you know. We keep saying it over and over again. Hey, this is the mafia scene. You know, you got the different crime families, and the fact that he's using the Rancor, I'll repeat what Milton said, is brilliant, pretty brilliant. He's finally, there is some moments where Boba, honestly, has been kind of dumb in my eyes. Like he's like, oh, I didn't realize there were people rampaging the streets. Oh, I didn't realize this. It's like, really? Aren't you supposed to be the one that's like knowing everything right now? You're in Jabba's palace. So, but no, in this case, it was like, yeah, he actually knows what he's doing at this point. He's got the Rancor, a show of force. You don't want to mess with me. And they all leave and they all accept his agreement. Hey, he's going to fight by himself, but at least they're not going to go fight him eventually. They're not going to join the Pikes at the very least. So he doesn't have to worry about his back from them as much.
Agreed. But again, like I said, I still think he has a contingency. I feel like, you know, one of those guys are going to do something stupid. Mm-hmm. You know, again, they're greedy. They all used to be captains of Jabba the Hutt. And, you know, like someone's going to try to pull some BS.
Well, Chris, didn't you say like potentially the Crimson Dawn has like hidden people around? Like could one of them maybe be connecting? Like maybe we see one of them do a heel turn and like work with the Crimson Dawn or work with the Pikes. Yeah. I think it'll be something potentially like that even too. Like I think there's a chance we get like a cut scene in one of the next 3 episodes. Like it'll cut from something Boba related, and it'll be one of these random guys at the table talking to a Pike or talking to a Crimson Dawn person or and I think we'll get someone turning.
All we're gonna see, and I'm predicting this now, you put a good thought in my head. You're gonna see like a warbled up transmission of one of these guys in a dark alleyway with his holo communicator up, yada
Yep.
yada yada, and he'll say await the dawn, and it'll have like the Crimson Dawn like in the graphic thing, and then turn off,
Mhm.
and it'll be like, that's the end of the episode. We know what's coming. Like I feel like that's gonna
I-
happen either the next episode or an episode after that.
Yeah, I think that's the direction. Like one of those guys are going to have to heel turn. I think there's most of them will probably stay with Boba out of fear, and then there'll be the one brave, unfortunate person that's going to try to turn, and he'll report to whoever he reports to and probably get taken out before that, or during it or something.
Yeah. So let's talk about the big
Right.
scene. You were referencing this at the beginning of the episode, Ben. We get that cool scene where they're like, "How much money do you have?" Well, I got enough credits. Well, we got to hire some people, and it just starts playing the Mandalorian theme. It's like, "Yep, Din Djarin's making his appearance now." Let's just do some speculation for the end of the episode. Well, first off, let's acknowledge that, like you said, Ben, I think this was one of those moments we've been missing from the show where it's like the
Yep.
episode ends and it's like you want to have something where you go like, yeah, I can't wait till next week. And the Pike's showing up. Cool. They're just these generic looking aliens that we know from Star Wars. Or one week it ends and it's like the dude handing him a thing to drink. Or another week ends and he's doing the Haka dance, which is really cool. But I don't think it's anything that's been pulling people as much as this final part of this episode where it's like, okay, we're on track. And like you said, I'll throw it to Milton, man. What was your reaction to hearing that familiar music at the end of the episode?
I thought it was dope. I liked it. I'm glad that we're going to get Mando. Okay, that's what they're telling us we were going to get, and there is obvious he better show up without question. And I think that's a perfect bridge into the next series, into Mando season 3. I think, because that's coming out this year, correct? Mando season 3.
Supposedly,
So-
now there's
okay.
rumors that they had to halt production because of COVID, or something.
Right.
Rumor,
So
I don't know.
hopefully it does. If not, it is what it is. But I'm thinking we get what we kind of got at the end of season 2 of Mando, of like that tag on the end with Book of Boba Fett. I think with bringing in Mando, getting him involved maybe in an episode or two. Maybe they kind of end it where we are going to transition into or season 3 of Mando.
Yeah.
So I like this setup. Use him right in the show, but then set it up. Okay, where's his story going to go now in season 3? Give us kind of a sneak peek. Maybe he does beef with the Pikes, or maybe a Grand Admiral Thrawn somehow gets involved, and he has to like go deal with that. I just don't know. I'm just speculating. So, or maybe other Mandalorians show up, and that ties into his season 3 of like trying to go take back Mandalore. I don't know. You just never know.
Yeah,
I
but
like
the
It
future.
just throws out a lot of ideas what potentially in this show, which could lead to the next series.
Oh, I agree with all that, and I can say I love that scene. Like, as soon as they started playing the Mando music, it was like one of those moments, like we felt all last year with Mando season 2. It's one of those moments where it's like, yes, like here we go, finally something. So like I thought it was great. And my thought though was I think it's going to be even bigger than what a lot of fans are expecting. I think everyone's just expecting Din to show up. We got to remember, guys, he's the owner of the Darksaber right now, so he's potentially in charge, whether he wants to or not. He's in charge of the other Mandos that are around. So I think there's a chance we get a sure, however the sequels did things, but I think there's a chance we can get kind of a Rise of Skywalker type thing, like call for help doesn't arrive, and then help arrives in the form of Din with the Darksaber plus a bunch of Mandos showing up just to start smoking people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to potentially happen. And it's going to be interesting because if that happens, that also begs the question, you're going to have to balance that out. Who are they going to be fighting? So I really think we're going to get Din plus a bunch of Mandos.
I think what could happen here, and what could be really cool about the storyline, right, is we see Mando with all these Mandalorians. We're not going to know what happened, but then when we get Mando season 3, they're going to give us maybe like a little bit of a flashback or in the beginning of the season of how he gathers those allies. And then at the end of the episode, they get the call from Boba Fett, and it'll be like the opposite of the perspective of Boba Fett from calling him or something. So we'll get that, but I think what could happen, because I don't know if Mando's going to be in this for more than one episode, they could completely decimate the Pikes and be like, hey, thanks for helping us out. Thanks for getting Tatooine back to us. Like wipe out the Pikes like they were nothing. Mandalorians go back to doing whatever they want. And then the real threat
Yep.
emerges as Crimson Dawn, and then you're like, oh
Yep.
crap, they should have stuck around. And now it's like, now he's got to deal with the Crimson Dawn. But I think it's not going to be just the Mandalorians. I think he's going to be calling some of his old buddies. I think he's going to be calling maybe some Bosk, maybe Cad Bane, maybe some of the other bounty hunters like IG-88, maybe Byler and Valance, all these other guys. I think there's a possibility because they need soldiers. They need an army themselves. Just like one or two people is not going to be enough to cut it. Especially if that was
Well,
just the first wave of guys, which was already like 12 dudes. So it's like, I don't know.
but here's the question too, guys. With Filoni, about 99% he's directing, episode 6 of this show. Why would Filoni be directing the 6th episode? Like, who could put out of potentially Boba's allies? Who could be showing up? Like, that makes me think that could be maybe Cad Bane, potentially,
Or Hondo.
or Honda, or someone like that, something along those lines. Because, like, look, Filoni directed, other cameo episodes. Like, he got the Ahsoka episode. Like, that was big. Like, he's shown he can bring in those animated characters. So it makes me wonder, who could they potentially bring in? Or who knows? It could just be straight up Bosk, and like that'd be pretty cool too.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot to look forward to. I'm hoping that maybe next episode's a side trip. Maybe now that we have the Slave One in the past, maybe they'll use it in the present. They'll get on Slave One and they'll go to a different planet and try to rendezvous with Din or some other allies on another planet. Because as much as I love Tatooine, I really want to see a different color palette. We've been seeing a lot of sand. We're gonna see a lot of sand in Obi-Wan's show. So it's like, let's at least take 1 or 2 episodes where we're on a different planet. And that doesn't count with flashbacks that are 5 seconds long with Kamino.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
actually,
that's a good point. That's a good point. Go ahead, Ben.
I just thought of as well. Is there a chance? Who from Mando? I forget who was talking about Fennec Shan. Like, was it Grief Karga, or who was talking about Fennec Shan to like Mando specifically? Because I was trying to think, could Carl Weathers' character show up, or I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's just so many different options and routes this could go. Like, it's going to be really interesting. Like you said too, Chris. Like, I love Tatooine and everything, but it would be really cool just to get a change of a color palette. Like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we go to Mandalore, or I guess wherever they could be potentially hiding out, and maybe they go and recruit them that way or something potentially. And maybe they come. Who knows? Maybe they come back and like things are getting taken over since Boba's gone.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, right? I don't care if exposition's beating over our heads with this. I want them to give us like a good, maybe 1-2 minute little explanation of a galaxy, kind of what's going on in the galaxy, current events. Like, oh yeah, we consolidated our power on this and we started moving towards the Empire's remnants with this, and so's over here doing this. I would love just like kind of catch up, because then I would show the power of the crossover and seeing like this is a piece of the story going forward, and this is why this is important. We have concurrent events happening over here and over here and over here, and then you could have other side stories over there. To kind of end this discussion on this episode, my only problem with Din Djarin showing up, and I've seen some of this on the online now, is will this overshadow the show? Will having the Mandalorian, and we're gonna talk about midway through the show. We're gonna talk about our thoughts overall midway. Now we're through the season. But does this have the potential to have Din Djarin kind of overshadow everything that the season has been about, because people are so excited for Mando because he's Mando?
I think it depends on how they use him. I think if he's a one-off episode, fine, and he has to be. It's kind of like professional wrestling, especially like characters like The Undertaker or like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, or even Andre the Giant. They're not everyday wrestlers. They are attractions. So you don't want to overexpose those attractions. You want people to be chomping at the bit to see that wrestler for that 15-20 minutes. They do their match, they leave, they talk about what they've seen, and then they say, oh, I cannot wait to see him or her again in a big event that actually matters. So I think if you're going to bring Mando into the show, he has to be an attraction that makes sense to the story and then that they're going to want us wanting more in his or in his show now, and they need to tell a complete story when he's in that one episode. They can't just leave it open for him to come back in another episode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think with Mando, you have a few routes you can take. It can either overshadow the show, that's obviously a concern, but also it could enhance the show and potentially it could potentially set the standard more, I think, for the show, because the show up to this point, we've enjoyed it for what it is, but I think personally there should have been more action through the first half of this season, and like introducing Mando, I think potentially sets expectations to be higher for the show. So potentially going into a future season of this show, it'll set the bar higher. So I think that's an important thing, and also this talk really brings me back to the potential, like the reports months and months ago from Collider saying this is potentially Mando season 2.5. So it makes me wonder, are we going to do whatever it is with Din Djarin and the potentially other Mandalorians in this next episode, and it somehow connect? Because we know when Bo-Katan in, I believe it was the 3rd or 4th episode of season 2 of Mando, when Bo-Katan leaves with that ship, she's talking about like the coming war, or the coming conflict, or however she says it to Din. So I think what we're going to be eventually leading to is to whatever this big coming conflict is. I think Boba's going to potentially get involved with it, because once he gets his situation resolved, how is he going to still be connected to the greater galaxy? And I think that's what it'll be, because maybe like this season of the show, we're going to be getting like Boba calling up the favor, and maybe for Mando, we get to the end of Mando and Mando calls the favor of Boba or something. It's like kind of that whole like buddy system, like, hey, you have my back if I got yours type deal. And I think there's a chance of that, like potentially when they try to reconquer Mandalore, if it is still taken at the moment. Like I think Din will potentially call in Boba and whatever we end up calling Boba's crime syndicate, like it'll be something along those lines. But I think his character will pay off as a whole, just because I really do think it's the spark this season needs to like just get things fired up again. Like, sure, this last episode and the second episode were both really good, but I think it's just been kind of like a roller coaster, like up and down, up and down, up and down. And I think Din will kind of put this on the upward trajectory like that the show's needing. And even if it's just one episode, I think it's enough to get it a good enough push where it'll, push it for the remaining few episodes.
Right. Yeah, I think it's all about balance. If he's in there for one episode, that's fine. But if he's in there for episode 5, 6, 7 pretty heavily, then I'm like, okay, now I just don't want too much to be taken from him.
One more quick thing with this. I'm not actually too worried about it. I'm really not at all, because if you think about it, they already have precedent set for cameos. Mando season 2 was full of cameos, and it still felt like Din's show, like Ahsoka. One of our biggest fan favorite characters ever is Ahsoka, and she didn't overshadow Din whatsoever. And it was her episode. Obviously, like it meant to be like her episode, but it still felt like Din's show with her being the guest for the week. But it still felt like it was Din's journey we were on. Like I think Din is going to potentially, it'll help Boba's journey potentially as a ruler, because maybe, hey, Din could come in with these Mandos, and him seeing Din having all these Mandos united could give Boba an idea like, oh, hey, this is an idea of how to rule people. And like, I think that's potentially the lasting effect that Din may have on Boba. Like Boba's going to learn some type of a lesson, just like Din learned from Ahsoka,
I'm about to say, like, I agree 100%, especially when it comes to the cameo. Again, season 2 of Mando was perfect, because we pretty much had 3 cameos. Let's be real here. It was Ahsoka, which we love that episode, but they did it perfectly. And then you got, in that same episode, you got a name drop of Thrawn. Again, didn't overshadow, because we know we're going to get that in her show. Yep. Like I said before, she's an attraction. They featured her. They ended her story in that show right there, but it will continue in her own show. And obviously with Luke Skywalker, the big reveal at season 2, we want more Luke. That's not a question. But we know that whole sequence still was about Grogu and Mando. Again, we
Yep.
remember him in the hallway fighting the troopers, but what's the lasting scene that we remember? Whenever Grogu and Mando are having that moment, he takes off his helmet for the first time in front of him, right?
Yep.
And he's touching his face. And it's like, wait a minute, that I'll never forget that because that's a great scene. So it didn't overshadow. So Chris, I have to say, no, it won't shadow Boba Fett's story if they do it like they've done it thus far.
There you go. So, I mean, those were great thoughts on what we can expect for this epic 3 episodes left already of season 1. We're flying through this season. We're going to give our thoughts on this episode 4. I'll start off with me and my thoughts. I will say, rhyming off the beginning, there's some good action in here. There's some good character development in here. And there's some moments like I felt like extended too long. Some things could have been cut out. Yeah, I was happy it was a 45-minute episode, but it could have still been a little bit tighter. And but I'm happy that we kind of finished up the flashbacks and we were kind of on track. I'm gonna give this one a solid 8 out of 10. I'll throw it over to Milton.
Yeah, again, I agree with the majority of your points. I liked the episode. I really did. Again, second best episode thus far. We have 3 more. Hopefully, I can say that those other 3 were better than episode 4. Love the music, love the visuals, love where the story's going. Again, some pet peeve stuff with some of the writing and how it made sense. Talking about the robot, some of the time stuff. I get that. It is what it is. If I had to give it a score out of 10, probably 8.25 out of 10.
Alrighty, very good, very good. Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I can echo pretty much everything you guys said. Like, I thought it was really good overall. It was my second favorite episode, as we mentioned on the top. I thought it had, good action in it. We finally see the Slave One, in action a little bit more. That's cool. Like, always seeing its weaponry. It's great seeing a rank war. The way Boba's utilizing it. It's nice seeing the story pick up a little more. And of course, it's great like getting the hints of Din Djarin or potentially other Mandalorian characters coming into this show. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then, the downsides of the episode were obviously, as we mentioned, the droid stuff and some of the writing was a little clunky. And for me, I just didn't like the music with the Power Ranger kids theme stuff. Like, I just didn't think that was good at all because it was too techno. But overall, I thought the episode was a solid, probably an 8.5 out of 10. It's my second favorite episode behind the second one.
So we progressively got higher scores as we went around the so-called virtual room here.
Yep.
Before we get past and away from the Book of Boba Fett, as I mentioned, we are about midway. We're at that midway point. Well, actually kind of more than midway at this point. 3 episodes left out of 7. So I want to talk about just what I've been thinking about was, the popularity of the Book of Boba Fett versus the Mandalorian. I think it's pretty obvious. There's not as many people talking about the Book of Boba Fett right now. And I just want to kind of talk about and discuss maybe why that could be. I will start off with something that's kind of out of the Book of Boba Fett's control, and it's just the phenomenon that is The Mandalorian, right? The Mandalorian opened up Disney Plus the first day, blew everybody's minds with just being the first Star Wars live action series. So it's like they set the precedent. So it's kind of hard for a rival show in Star Wars to kind of reach that high. It's almost like that Force Awakens high of like the first movie in 10 years, that sort of thing. But then there's a lot of other things that I listed here. And the big one here is, it doesn't have a Baby Yoda. It doesn't have a Grogu. And right now there's not a lot of audience surprises in the show. We were talking about the first almost real one happening in episode 4 is just about the Mandalorian theme song. Now, is this too much of a crutch for this show to lie on to kind of boost its ratings up like it should be? So let's kind of go around the virtual room and just kind of talk about our thoughts with Mandalorian or with the Book of Boba Fett, at that halfway point, how we're feeling about it in general.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you said is correct. It's not the first show. There's no Grogu. I get that. I think I think how this show's been presented has been an issue in the sense of like some of the writing and some of the story beats. I think that's a significant reason. Because think about with Mando season 1. I'll just talk about that season. There's not really a bad episode in that whole series or in that first season. There's not really one, I don't think, from what I remember. They were all solid episodes. They all moved the story forward. Yes, I'm sure there were some moments in it that could have been looked at differently or cut out or whatever. But everything made sense in what they were trying to do with that first season. And I don't remember anyone saying that Mando season 1 was bad at all or they weren't invested. I think, like Ben said about Bad Batch, and even with this show, it's a roller coaster. That's one of the issues. It's not seamless where like, oh man, I'm so hyped to see episode 4. I'm so hyped to see episode 3. Mando, even in season 2, how they were like the episode was called The Jedi, or no, what was the episode where they went to the mountain where Grogu had to sit on the rock? Remember that? What was that called?
Was that called The Sacrifice or no?
The Sacrifice or something? Whatever it was.
It
was something.
It was the burden, or it was something sad.
But
something
even
the tragedy.
But even leading up to that episode, okay, again, they made you want to come back to that. They made you say, okay, like they'll drop hints about what's going to happen in the next episode in a way where like, okay, I got to watch next week. You know, even the finale of season 2, we're like, okay, something's coming. Like The Rescue, just the title itself, The Rescue. Like, I haven't seen a title in this show where I'm like, I'm intrigued about that. And I'm like, all right, it is what it is. I'm checking to see how long the episodes are. I think how they wrote this show is very much roller coastery, and I think they need to get back on track to where it's consistent to where I want to come back each week to see that. And honestly, thus far, this show in particular has not been it hasn't been rewatchable, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, season or episode 2 is good, episodes 4 are good, but 1 and 3, that's an issue.
I think what could be here is the unclear plot. There's not really a current hook. I think Ben was talking about this before about the hook. There's not that draw that's going to get us to watch the next episode right away. We have to stay up exactly at 3 a.m. on the East Coast to watch it, before being spoiled. That sort of thing is just not happening anymore these days, it seems like.
Right. Absolutely. But think about it, though. In season 2, how many times did we speculate, like, for each episode, or someone's showing up? Like, even Ahsoka's episode, we knew she was going to be in there. Like, we just had a strong feeling because how they wrote the previous episode. They said, go to this planet and seek out this Jedi or whomever they said. And we're like, oh, that's got to be Ahsoka. I'm invested. Like, you just knew that you had to watch. This show, they're not giving us that yet.
Yeah, Ben, would you say that maybe that the flashbacks are kind of cutting out the pacing a little bit, slowing it down?
Not even that. I would say what's slowing it down and what's hampering the show completely. So, as I said, my best friend, he comes over every week to watch the show. We always order pizza and whatnot. And we were talking about it this week. And I think the issue is they set such a high precedence with Boba in season 2 of Mando. They made him the Boba from season 2 of Mando compared to the Boba at the beginning of this season. They're two totally different characters, completely different in my opinion, because he comes in and there's just stormtroopers, but he comes in and literally shows no mercy and is just brutally killing all these people. And then, he literally was ready to shoot down the dark troopers that had Grogu. And then even to show his ruthlessness, he had Fennec Shan ready to blow Grogu right off the ridge. Like, he literally had her with the sniper ready. So how do we go from that Boba, who's, Rodriguez said in the behind the scenes thing, he's a legend, you got to introduce him as a legend, all this sort of stuff, to Boba, who's not fired his blaster through the first 3 or 4 episodes, in the present day. So, my thing with that, it's like they gave us two different feelings to a character, and it made the precedence real weird because in the back of everybody's minds in Mando season 2, we had Boba kicking butt, and then when we get to this show, and it's like, nah, I'm just going to get walked all over. So, I think that's what's hurting the character the most is that they set the expectation so high for this character to be so like action packed, doesn't take no for an answer type deal. And then he comes into this show and he's getting outsmarted by just nobodies basically. And that's hurting. That's what I think's hurt people's enthusiasm for the show. And then, as you both mentioned, of course, the biggest thing that even Mando doesn't even have, or that Mando can't control, is the Grogu phenomenon. Because if this show started out with Grogu in it and the other ones in it, if this was the first show and throw Grogu in the present, throw Grogu in the past somehow, whatever, rewrite everything, people would be reacting probably pretty similarly, I would say. Because Grogu's such a phenomenon. Like, that's the draw for Mando season 3. Like, don't get me wrong, we have the Luke stuff potentially. We have all this other stuff with Bo-Katan, whatever. But people are excited because they can't wait to see when Mando reunites with Grogu. That's what the draw. That's what the draw is. That's all that people, us as hardcore fans, we're excited for all this, that. Thrawn this, Luke that, whatever that. What our moms and dads are excited about. They're excited to see Baby Yoda and Mando reunite. That's what they want. So like Boba's never going to have that in this show. So they're either going to have to step up the action, I think, in this show, or they're going to have to just crank up the cameo game a little bit harder and give us the boss, give us the Cad Banes, give us the potentially Han Solos, give us the Kira, give us those type of characters, write them in like they did with Mando season 2. But I think they're going to have to crank up some of those to set the standard, because it's hard to compete with basically another Boba Fett, which is Mando.
Yeah, I think with the action that you mentioned, Ben. Now, the action sequences, we had one of the best action sequences in any Star Wars anything recently in episode 2. With that train sequence was amazing. The sense of speed that was had, the swoop bikes, the sand people, everybody involved in that scene was awesome. And then the next episode, you have one of the worst chase scenes I've seen in anything recently. And it's like these speeders that are going at like 10 miles an hour down the streets. Like, I could run faster than these things. Like, what's going on here?
well, that's my point, Chris, is like, okay, so take that sequence, for example. Take the Boba from season 2 of Mando, of how he goes in and wipes out those stormtroopers. Drop that Boba into that episode, and he would be flying all over with his jetpack or something and just taking him out. And like,
that's the thing. Like they
depowered
him. Yeah,
they depowered him.
They depowered him for some weird reason. And Ben, you already know where I'm going to go with this one.
Yep, I know where you're going.
Just like in Arrow seasons 1 and 2, Oliver is wrecking people.
Yep.
And somehow in midway season 3, they switch him up, and it's like from that point on, it's like, this ain't the same Oliver that we're in love with, because he's just wrecking people in seasons 1 and 2. And it's like, God almighty, give me that brutal Oliver, because there's times, again, Ben or Chris, I know you're not an Arrowverse fan like that, but there's times in season 3 on where Oliver is getting wrecked by these nobodies. It's like, wait a minute, you trained on the island for 5 years.
With
Slade Wilson, Deathstroke trained you. Talia al Ghul trained you, son. Like, what are you doing? And you're letting, like, these softies wreck you, bro? Like, what are you doing? It's just weird writing to me, especially with season 4. Ugh. But yeah, that's the thing. They depowered Boba. It makes no sense. Like, he needs to be OP. Like, if you're going to get people back, make him OP. He's a character that people would be okay if he was overpowered.
Yeah. And one final thing I want to say about this is, for me personally, I think we got to get off Tatooine for at least one planet here, because we've been stuck on this planet for so long. I feel like it's just the constant just reminder of, yes, we've been on this planet. I love Tatooine, but at least, Mandalorian was visiting at least more than one planet for most of the season.
Here's the thing. Go to Mandalore. If they went to Mandalore, I kid you not, like, I'd be so hyped, because I'd be like, oh my God, yeah, we saw Mandalore and a Clone Wars. Give me that in live action. Or even hell, go to Coruscant. What's the New Republic up to? Just give us something.
Mm-hmm.
How is he going to affect the New Republic?
Well, Milton, that brings up another idea. Boba, potentially thinks Mandalore is glassed over, is what he tells Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan says, "Hey, don't believe everything you hear." Yeah, what if we leave the planet for one episode to go on a little side mission with Den and the Mandalorians or something? I don't know, just something. Like, because we do have to leave. I feel like we do have to leave Tatooine, because I mean, to me, I mean, it feels like we're sitting out in the middle of the desert in Tatooine. Like it's like we can see town 100 miles away, and it's like we're crawling to get there. Like we're getting there, but it's slow.
Yeah, and I think that is the perfect way to kind of explain how this season has gone so far. There's certain aspects we enjoy, but there's a lot of things that I think we wish could be improved or made a little bit faster or more efficient. So yeah, tell us your thoughts, guys, in the comment section down below for how you're feeling about the Book of Boba Fett compared to the Mandalorian. Are you enjoying it? Do you think some things need to improve? Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel to see more on our thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett and for our podcast every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for watching, everybody. But getting back to the discussion here, we're going to get into our show afterwards of the Book of Boba Fett. We have a few things to talk about for news this week. So we are going to talk about, first off, as we always do, out this week, we have Dr. Aphra issue number 18. We have the High Republic, the Galactic Bake-Off Spectacular. It kind of bothers me saying that title because it's like, how did we get here with this book? It was actually a pretty entertaining comic book, but it's so far-fetched of a title. And we have the High Republic issue number 13. I have my reviews for all those on the channel. Go check those out. I know I went through light speed with those because we have some more important things to talk about. I wouldn't say they're more important, but really exciting nonetheless to talk about. And we have the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. We got the gameplay review on Thursday morning, and we have a release date of April 9th this year. Yes, it's like 2.5 months away, so please don't delay the game again because we are so close at this point. But yes, they showed us this glorious trailer, reveals some new bits about the game. They went over a lot with the combat, which I really enjoyed. They have this whole new combat system that we've never seen in any kind of Lego game, not even close, where it's like more over the shoulder, kind of like your typical third-person action-adventure camera behind a guy's back. But it's like you have melee characters, you have characters with lightsabers, all different kind of combat that involves combos for the first time. You have counterattacks. Each character has a unique counterattack. You have space battles, which look awesome. Like you can go to any of the 20 planets into hyperspace, go into the solar system there. You can fight Star Destroyers and then go down to the planet and transition directly to like on the ground combat. So it's like pretty much like open world Star Wars in the coolest way possible. The way I'm looking at this game is it is basically like they could put 3D skins on these people as opposed to like a Lego skin, and this would be like the ideal Star Wars game for somebody to play if they wanted to go from like episode 1 to episode 9. That's how good it is, like mechanically speaking, with the vehicle combat. And they have a lot of like really cool mini games too. Like they have stuff where you can like you're on like speeder chases, or you're like shooting out the back of like one of those speeders in the Rise of Skywalker on the Pisana plains. And then you have like you're directing like catapults from the Gungans against the lines of the droids on Naboo. Like they have a lot of cool mini game-esque looking gameplay designs, and you could customize your RPG element. It's almost like RPG, like you can like power up your different classes. Like they have Jedi, Scavenger, Scoundrel, Bounty Hunter, like all these different characters. Are like over 300 minifigures you can go on unlock. And then they also showed that they have the character packs for the deluxe edition, which include Rogue One, Solo, Bad Batch, Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. They have classic characters, trooper packs, like all this crazy stuff. So it looks like the waiting might pay off. But I know you watched this trailer, Ben. So what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, everyone knows my thoughts on this. I am super excited for this game. Like, as soon as we started talking about it, and I watched that trailer a couple times. Like, I cannot wait for it. Like, we're finally getting it. And hey, Star Wars posted about it on their YouTube channel like yesterday or today. So that means it's officially out there from Star Wars. So this game better be coming at the beginning of April is all I gotta say, because we have proof of it. It's out there. So that's a big opening thing with that because it cannot be delayed again. Like it looks like it's well done. Like you said, there's so much in depth. It's open world. That was my thought too, was, this is the closest thing we're getting to whatever that open world Star Wars game is coming out. Like this is basically what it's going to be. And the fact we get to go to so many planets and so many characters, and like you said, Chris, it's so in depth. Like the mini games, they have humorous little things. You can decide, you answer the question like, who shot first, Han or Greedo? Like they added that in there, like little things like that. charming things like that. And then, you can play through all the different trilogies, which is really cool. I mean, that was expected, of course, like that you'd be able to play through the 3 trilogies. But the fact they're adding all of that is really nice. And I just think the game is going to be a blast. Like, we've been looking forward to it. It's obviously different. They didn't just copy and paste the other Lego games into this. And it's also going to be interesting to see the Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker Lego game, because they never released those, So, or they never put those into development or anything.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how those play out. Yeah, I just think it's going to be a whole lot of fun, like, and so in depth. And one of the best parts of the Lego games is the fact that you can't complete the entire game in one go, because, to unlock certain parts of levels, you need to have like a bounty hunter class instead of a Jedi class, so you can, go back through it. That'll be really fun playing through it to try to get the game to 100% perfection. Like, that's one thing I always loved doing on the old Lego games. Like, that was always a blast. And I just think it's going to be awesome. Oh, and then one thing you mentioned in our text chat this week, Mumble Mode's back.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm so relieved. Like, I know you haven't played these games before, Milton, but basically the old Lego games, the way they would work, the characters, when they would talk, so like if you'd have Han and Greedo talking in the bar, they would be going bum, 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 like mumbling, like you couldn't understand them. It'd just be like funny little like humorous mumbles. And then they started getting cute with it in like the 2015s, 2016s, and they just started copying and pasting the lines from the actual movies. And it kind of cheapened it, for me, just because it's like, I don't know, like I may sound like someone just thriving on nostalgia or something, but I think it was just a lot more fun and charming, like with the old Mumble Mode versus just the actual audio from the movies. And the fact that they added that back in there, I saw a lot of people talking about that, actually, like being really excited. You can turn that mode on versus hearing the actual movie audio. So that's gonna be a really fun feature as well. And yeah, I'm just hyped for this game.
Yeah, I was happy because it's like, they put a lot of work into this game if they even included something as, I wouldn't say trivial, but something as obscure as the Mumble Mode. Because, I mean, we would have been disappointed if it wasn't there, but the fact that they went through the entire game and like re-recorded everything for that, I like how big the world seemed, because they showed like somebody flying with an X-Wing to Coruscant. And there was like multiple like landing zones. Like it said financial district. It said like the Utah district or something like that, which I never heard about before. So just the fact that there's like multiple zones on each of the 20 planets, or at least most of them, it seems like, it's like, damn, this thing's going to be big.
Well, Chris, there was the shot of, I think it was Luke maybe in Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
But there was a shot of one of the Lego characters just like looking around. When they say like you can explore, like the character literally looks around like the entire like area, and you can tell it's just a wide open like map you can go explore.
Yeah, that's what I like, is like there's like little, they said like you can continue the story like all the way through. Like I'll probably go like straight through all the story stuff and then come back and like play with other characters with all those little side quests. So that could be a lot of fun, because they're giving you a lot of freedom in which to choose like how you want to progress. Like you could start at the Force Awakens and just do that, then do the Phantom Menace, and then go back to A New Hope, however way you want to. The one thing that I'm kind of concerned by, I don't know if it's going to affect me entirely, but they didn't mention one word with multiplayer, and I know a lot of people out there love the multiplayer in the games because they'd be playing couch co-op with their buddies or their family members on, playing through. Maybe this game just isn't constructed the way it's like a whole new engine. I guess it looks like that. I guess there isn't multiplayer, but that is a little bit of a shame if there isn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They, like you said, I noticed that too, and I was talking about that with my friend, because that was one of the fun parts of those Lego games. If you played them growing up, was playing it with other people, like just, hey, having your buddies over and sitting grinding out those Lego games for hours. And like, they would literally take all day. So like those type of games, it's just, I don't know. I'm sure they'll probably have a co-op, but it won't be the co-op, like, I won't be able to like invite you to play with me online. I don't think they'll do something like that. but I think it'll be probably just a co-op, like you said, the couch co-op type deal.
Yeah, yeah. So again, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is going to be hitting your consoles and the shelves
Mm.
on April 5th, 2022. So the next story here revolves around the Bad Batch, which, according to the Star Wars Insider issue 108, is going to be out in spring of 2022. I mean, is that a surprise? I guess kind of, because we haven't really heard anything about it. I was like, oh, maybe it'll just come out in fall this year, but it seems like we're getting that spring date because it was officially in that magazine, which I actually own. So now we're getting a little bit more of a slate on Disney Plus, because just this past Monday we got this awesome first trailer for Moon Knight on Disney Plus, part of Marvel, and that's starting on March 30th. So they always want to give their new series like a chance to shine, I guess you could say. So I feel like maybe mid-April, but at the very least we might get like season 2 on May the 4th again, like we did the season premiere for season 1. I think they're gonna at least want to hit May the 4th. The show will be airing during Star Wars Celebration, and then I think for sure at Celebration they'll show a Kenobi trailer and be like, hey, we'll show you guys the first episode right here right now. I'm sure that'll happen. Whether or not it comes out in May or June, we'll see. But I think at least with this information, we kind of have a more of a concrete idea of what's going on. So I know there's not much to go off of this, but at least it's nice to know that like the next thing in the pipe is most likely going to be the Bad Batch.
Hopefully it's good. I mean, look, I know last year we had a lot of mixed reviews about that show. I mean, the premiere was awesome. The first couple episodes are awesome, but then the show drug sometimes, let's just be real and call it what it was. And then the finale, I know we had some issues with it, and it is what it is. I am hoping that the creators learn their lesson from season 1, because again, I'm curious to see how they're going to play this story. This is an important time in Star Wars in the sense of like the timeline in Star Wars, if that makes sense. Like everyone's curious about the Jedi Purge and all this type of stuff, and what role the Bad Batch played moving forward with the creation of the Empire. So I'm hoping that this show premieres well and it's consistent, because that's what we really liked about the show when it was consistent. And please God, who's the character?
Sid.
Sid. Don't have her in the show. Get rid of her, please. Like, she don't need to be in it. She slowed it down all the time. So just Bad Batch, Hondo, Cad Bane. We want to see those guys.
I think go ahead, Ben.
Go on. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think I just looked at my calendar. So spring is March 20th officially. So it's gonna be sometime after that, and that makes me think as well. I think the Bad Batch is going to be shorter, actually, than 16 episodes, because if you think about it, Kenobi's 6, Andor is 12, and at the Disney investor call about a month or two ago, they mentioned Andor being in Q4, which is, for Disney terms, that's like October on, end of September, October on. So Kenobi is either going to be June or July, probably, I would say, but I think this means Bad Batch is not going to be 16 episodes. I think it's going to probably be more like 10 or 12.
Maybe that's good for the show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I hate to tell you this, Milton, but I was thinking about it the other day. I really think here it comes. I think the show, based on how it ended, I think we're going to start off the show with some type of a Sid mission, and it's going to basically be the jump off point for the series. Like she's gonna send them on some mission, and then stuff's gonna go bad. Like I really think it's gonna go in that direction, just because we're in like such a weird spot the way it left off.
I'm gonna tell you right now. If that happens, and listen, just like I didn't say nothing during the Lego you guys talked about, I'm not going to say nothing about that episode, because I'm going to be so mad. I'm like, why are we doing this? But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. The thing that gives me hope here is the fact that we got that awesome end credit scene with Wayland and with Mount Tantus, and that's just like such a huge like draw to Thrawn from the Legends, that I'm like, okay, that scene actually gave me so much more hope for this show of getting cool connections to see it getting more serious in certain aspects.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a chance of that happening, and I say a chance very lightly, just because look how many times we got burned. Like this was like last season of Bad Batch. We mentioned it in our like finale review of the entire series. Like the show hurt my excitement for season 2 of the show. And I don't like saying that about a Star Wars property just because, we want to be excited about everything.
Mm,
But to me, when the season 1 of Bad Batch ended, it was just like, okay,
yeah.
am I that excited for season? Sure, there's the whole Tanta stuff, potential Thrawn stuff, and all that, whatever. But overall, like, it was just kind of like, like okay, like we're of course going to watch it because we want to check to see where the characters go. But there was just too many side quests or too many Sid missions specifically, not even side quests. Like the Sid, they really just need to get rid of that character out of Star Wars canon altogether. But I just don't. I think that's the potential scary part of the show is if it is like 12 or like if it's 12 episodes. I really hope 7 out of 12 are not like Sid missions again, because if so, I'm going to be really disappointed. So I'm just really going into it. I have low expectations. So if we get some good cameos and good stuff, it'll blow us away at least.
What I want to do now is make some cool speculation. So
Yep.
if Crimson Dawn is in fact involved in the book of Boba Fett, maybe since they're already talking about Crimson Dawn a hell of a lot in the comics, maybe they'll make connections to Crimson Dawn and Bad Batch. We already have them dealing with piracy and stuff. They're dealing with the Hutts, Bib Fortuna, and some of these other upstart criminal syndicate guys. So that could be a cool storyline, and maybe having Maul in there, like a cameo of Maul or
Yep.
something. Like I don't like how Maul's in everything anymore, honestly. But if it helps the show a little bit more and adds some more like tension, then maybe throw him in there.
Yeah.
It
Oh
could
yeah. I
it could
think.
be, but I mean that could help. That could help. But at the same time, we have Crosshair. Crosshair is a character that we've been like Ben said this all last year. He's like Crosshair should have been hunting these guys down the whole time.
And
Mm-hmm.
then we
Like,
find out he wasn't. Then we find out he
yeah,
wasn't in at the end of episode 13, I believe it was. He's like, "Do I have permission to hunt them?" And they're like, "Permission
yeah,
granted." It's like, wait, so you've been just
right.
you've been chilling on the couch for 12 weeks.
Facts. But here's the thing though. You have the perfect story right there for season 2. Like you don't need Maul and Crimson Dawn. And Chris, I'm not dismissing your idea. What I'm saying is like they already organically have a story built within.
Mm-hmm.
They're just wasting time with this extra stuff with Sid. Like they left now, or they left Crosshair on Camino, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or he
Yep.
chose to stay. But it's like, bro, that character his story needs to be told, and how he's going to either take out his brothers or have a redemption story.
Mm-hmm.
That should be season 2.
Yeah, I do agree with those points, Milton. Then I do agree with also Chris's point. Like both your guys' points are really accurate, because like the Crosshair character basically started out and basically ended the same way he was basically. Like he basically was the same character from episode 1 to episode 16. Like he pretty much came back to the same spot. So there's a potential for that, and then we also do have the potential of the different piracy things, whether it be Crimson Dawn, like like you said, Chris, like seeing I about said seeing Milton and everything, seeing Darth Maul and everything, seeing Maul and everything. He, it just matters how they use him, because are we
Yeah.
going to get him deep? Are we going to get him depowered like like we have with Boba? And then the thing is, though, also I think a big potential character appearance could be Boba Fett, actually, just because we mentioned at the end of Bad Batch, like this could be like the start of the era of Boba Fett, like the live action Boba Fett show, like the Boba Fett this, Boba Fett that, like we could be getting into that realm of things. Like Boba was name dropped several times throughout Bad Batch season 1, so maybe we end up getting young Boba with kind of a beat up Mando, like his dad's aren't like more of like a rough look to him than he would right now. So like maybe we'll get a young Boba Fett making an appearance. Like I think that could be like a big appearance that could show up in Bad Batch season 2.
Yeah, with the whole Maul thing, just to kind of end that conversation. we did have rumors right before that Disney Plus day where they were like, "Oh, there's a Maul series with the Crimson Dawn." That's why I kind of mentioned it too, because it's like, oh, maybe they could have like
Yep.
the backdoor pilot of like that Maul episode and be like, "Oh, now we have this whole new series of Maul right after the events of the Clone Wars or Revenge of the Sith or something." But yeah, definitely more Boba Fett. That's a good pool. Good pool, Ben, because we're already
Yeah.
deeply entrenched in the Boba Fett lore. He's been mentioned multiple times. He's going to be the key to Omega and her, future in the galaxy. I feel like learning more about the lineage of like his father, their father Django, and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, we can look forward to that coming pretty soon here. Spring is around the corner, so coming soon enough. And one final story for this week revolves around Ahsoka, and we have casting news. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is cast in Ahsoka. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. I think apparently this she is married to Ewan McGregor, so I think that's kind of cool. That two Star Wars two spouses are involved with Star Wars concurrently. That's pretty neat. But there's literally nothing that I don't know if there's anything you guys can take from this story, but I don't know if there's literally no description of her
I mean,
character
there's
or
really,
anything.
honestly, Chris, I'll be real with you, and I'm sad to say it, but I'm not excited about that. Not saying I'm not excited for the actress, because she's a really good actress. I believe she was in the Harley Quinn movie as the Huntress.
Oh, that's who
Yep.
that was.
Yeah, that's who it is.
Oh.
And I like that actress. She's really good. However, with Disney, like hell, Max von Sydow was cast in Force Awakens, and we all thought he was going to be like old. People thought he was going to be Boba Fett at one point. It was weird.
Yeah,
like,
I was one of those people. Like,
Yeah.
I thought he might have been an old Boba Fett. Like,
right.
We're
And
talking
he was
about
just
that.
he was I forget his character's name, but he was like a disciple of like the Force, a Church of the Force or something,
Yep.
in the movie for 10 minutes. And it's like I don't get excited about casting anymore. I'll be honest with you, because she could just be a cameo.
Mhm.
She can just be someone that, because she's famous. Oh, she's a, I'm like,
Danny
come
Trejo.
on, man. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
but right, true. And it's like, you know what? I don't get excited about this anymore, because Disney doesn't always stick the landing on these castings. I mean, hell, even whenever they casted the Raid guys in
Oh,
The Force
yeah.
Awakens, everyone thought, oh, that's the Knights of the Ren. Oh, it's gonna be fire with the martial arts. No, they're just a death squad or some shit like that. It's like, all right, I don't get hyped anymore.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
me,
Because if they were the Knights of the Ren, it'd have been badass.
oh, that's completely facts. I think for me, I mean, I'm kind of in that boat. It's whatever. Like, it could literally be anything. She could be a side character just who happened to be around the shooting location. And they said, "Hey, you want to be in a Star Wars thing?" Because wasn't I mean, look, Daniel Craig, wasn't he the stormtrooper that tied up
Mhm.
Rey in Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. So like, oh, Daniel Craig's in the Star Wars movie. Okay, and so like, to me, casting, it's cool. It is cool hearing stuff like, Ahsoka's getting like, it's nice hearing the shows getting going. So that's good. But for me, like, if we're gonna get into like the natural Star Wars fan reaction, the overreaction, I guess you would say on Twitter. So let's put these pieces together. So clearly, since Ewan McGregor's wife is in the show, that means that Ahsoka is going to be contacting Obi-Wan in this show, most likely, and that is why she's in there. That would be the reaction on Twitter, I think you would find.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we don't. This show's coming out next year, right? 2023. I think it's slated for. So we got probably around this time next year to keep speculating until we get to that point. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for Outer Rim Transmission number 41. Great show, guys, talking about the Book of Boba Fett, some video game news, some TV news, some animation news, so a little bit of everything this week. So what are you guys talking up on Twitter this week, and where can everybody find you?
This week for me, it's going to be a chill weekend. It's been a hell of a week with me with just a regular day job, so I'm going to relax and watch some NFL playoff football. This is a divisional week, so hopefully this is a good week of football, just like it was last week. Kind of, my Eagles lost, unfortunately, but I'm going to just enjoy some football. relax, maybe probably play some Arkham Asylum. I've been playing that.
Oh.
Actually, Arkham City. I've been playing Arkham City. So I beat Arkham Asylum. Now I'm playing Arkham City
Ooh.
again. So, and I wish that's the type of Star Wars game we would get, but we'll get into that later. You can find me at Twitter at Milton Weber 7. Again, that's Milton Weber, the number 7.
And Ben.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much going to be doing the same things, watching the NFL playoffs. I think, if you're a sports fan, all of these matchups are going to be great, like must-see TV, I think. Like that's a big thing. I'm going to be watching every single one of those games. And then most likely just meal prepping since I started a diet recently. Just meal prepping on Sunday and, doing that for the week. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'll be up to. And then of course, like checking out, chatting up some, random Star Wars topics that pop up, of course, on Twitter with people as they appear on the timeline. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Real Ben Maynard and here on the podcast.
Yeah, and I want to shout out the chat. We got Aaron, we have Chris, yeah, and we have Alex there in the chat. So make sure you go ahead every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Join us for our reviews on the Book of Boba Fett. We have just 3 episodes left. Those that are watching, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast feed and listen to us whenever you're at the gym, whenever you're riding in your car, that sort of thing. As far as the YouTube channel, this week I put out a video explaining the whole thing, the whole controversy of Slave One and fire spray, gunship, and what that could all mean. Nothing, basically, for Boba Fett's iconic, famous ship, as well as some other videos relating to some Star Wars The High Republic material and comics. So make sure you go ahead and check out that content that I release throughout the week. So for Starrapter, for Milton, and for Ben, thanks everybody for watching and listening. That's going to do it for Outer Rim transmission number 42 and transmission.